In my sadhana this week, I'm continuing with the Gayatri Mantra, and I have definitely seen some very interesting changes. One in particular, which is a vibrant sense of clarity in decision making. I have I've cut some things out, I've made decisions, I have moved on from certain situations and people in a very rapid, no nonsense kind of way. And I am sure that this is related to my practice of the Gayatri Mantra that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks, more than 2 weeks, I think. I haven't been doing it every day, but I've been doing it most days. I've said in an earlier video that I don't force myself to do something daily as a commitment. I have periods of focus, but I always allow for gentleness. So, anyway, I have been doing this practice and I am sure that it has resulted in this clarity of decision making in particular. And I was thinking about the sounds and the impact of sound because, of course, this is how mantra works. It actually shifts the configuration of the body and mind at a cellular level, at a neurological level. It shifts the way that the flows move within the karmic structure. And that's why it creates changes. That is how it has the impact. So, Sri Yukteswar, I was thinking about how Sri Yukteswar articulates something very interesting about the three sounds, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, at the beginning of the Gayatri Mantra. Now, Sri Yukteswar was, is, was the guru of Yogananda, and Yogananda speaks a lot about him in Autobiography of a Yogi. So Sri Yukteswar was an extraordinary master, mystic, practitioner. And in one of his very small little books, he is speaking about the structure of the human body and particularly the chakras and the subtle structure of the body. He correlates the sounds bhur, bhuva, swaha with the three lower chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Nabhi chakra. Bhur, bhuva, swaha. Muladhara or root, Swadhisthana, sacral, Nabhi, Manipuraka, the navel chakra. And I find this absolutely fascinating. I found it fascinating at the time. Now, I'm saying, remember that this is Sri Yukteswar's knowledge and sharing. I am not making this up. So, for those of you who are Vedic Sanskrit scholars or particularly the practitioners, don't come at me saying that this is not right or correct in the traditional Vedic interpretation. You have to remember that these mantras are keys that unlock a whole range of different realities because our human system is a space of possibility. Many different realities can be unlocked within the system by using these potent sounds. So this is what Sri Yukteswar is speaking to. So the reason I find this interesting is that when we think about the Gayatri Mantra, we think of we think of the intellect. We are unlocking, brightening up, clarifying the intellect. But isn't it interesting that he correlates the sounds with the lower part of the body, the lower part of the system, the substance, the material, the root, the foundation? And I thought, of course that makes sense because the power of the Gayatri Mantra is about unlocking our clarity in the world. The decisions that I'm making, the decisions that I've been making in the last couple of weeks, this clarity of decision making happens because the he, or intelligence, is being brought alive in the lower part of my system, the part of the system that relates to material well-being and, of course, to willpower. So material well-being, creativity, and willpower. Inside my mind this week, I've been thinking about the pain of growth, that leaving behind things and people that I've long outgrown, the things that we're comfortable with, the situations, the relationships, the people who bring great comfort in a sense, great ease, and they give stability because we're used to them. But it's one of those things, if you are going to flower and develop as an individual human being, very often we have to leave behind things that used to be very precious to us, in fact. The things, the people, the situations that used to fit very well. But if we've outgrown, they no longer fit and they continue to take up space in our akashic field. And actually, what they do is that they keep an old identity in play, an old identity that is too small for where I want to go next. It's even too small for my current reality. Yes, so leaving behind, it's painful, but that is part of the growth. And I've also been thinking about timing in this regard. So when I let go of things, perhaps particularly people who I have held in great regard, and in many ways I still hold in great regard. If you think about teachers, gurus, people who have enriched your life so much, but if we stay connected to them, if we keep that identity active, that identity of student, if I keep that identity of student still active somewhere, it actually limits me. It prevents me from flowering fully, from fully expressing the potential that is within this system. So, yes, it's a reality. And again, coming back to the Gayatri Mantra, this is one of the places where I've been able to make very clear decisions with ease because of that practice. So, going across London on the train earlier this week, I really noticed how much we are consuming other people's conversations and sounds, much, much more so than we did in the past, because we're having conversations on our phones. People are listening to music, not necessarily through their earphones, but and other people are also listening to videos of all kinds. So we are consuming through other people's conversations, their music, their apps. We're consuming sounds that don't belong to us. And we are doing this at a volume that is much greater than we did in the past. I was sitting on the train going across London. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I thought back to, 10, 20 years ago. The carriages were quiet. You were in your own space. Whereas now we are participating in other people's sensory input, other people's conversations and sounds much more than we used to. And the interesting thing is that if you are sort of sensitive to the vibration behind the sounds, you're actually participating in other people's emotions and in their lives. There's this much greater exchange through the ethers. Our akashic field is being much more impacted by other people, and it's overwhelming. So, this is why there is an increased need for silence and quiet. So, in order to balance all of that out, I make sure that I take, even if it's a few minutes of quiet, to let those things fall away. The things that don't belong to you, you want them to fall away, to be washed away in moments of quiet. It's extremely important. Otherwise, the nervous system is just going to be overwhelmed and then discombobulated. It creates this fragmentation, and that is not good. That is the opposite of coherence, and it brings the opposite of clarity. So, yeah, it's just something that I'm really noticing. The I don't think there's anything to be done about it in the public spaces, but once we are back at home in the private space, create those moments of quiet. This week's adornment is all about the springtime, thinking of that as the adornment of the world, the adornment of nature, the natural world, which is so beautifully adorned at this time of year. Going on my morning walks, just observing the stunning colors of different flowers and the beautiful shapes of blossom and leaves as they come into full being after the winter. It is remarkable because that feeds the senses. That's one of the places where we really get to nourish our senses. And it's grounding, it creates stability. It has this extraordinary quality, actually, of being both grounding and exquisite at the same time. So I've been thinking about how in classical dance we have rechaka, or in music, gamaka, this adornment. These moments of adornment are actually what brings the art form to life. So, with movement, it's the subtle rechakas, the adornments that actually bring an exquisite aliveness to the movement. And it's the same in music. So, the adornment of nature is so full that actually just walking through that, it is as if you take on that adornment as your own. It becomes a personal adornment for my own space, for my own akashic field, and there is great and beautiful nourishment in that.